Hello to all my story lovers. Welcome back in Storytime channel. I'm Pallavi, reading interesting storybook for you. Today I'm reading Wise and Otherwise, chapter number 47. An unknown benefactor from Chennai. Let's go through it. The concept of fundraising is extremely popular in the USA. There are separate departments in the universities and charitable organizations for this activity. They catch the right fish by different methods so that donors give money to the organization or university concerned. This notion is now catching on in India too. My friend Mithili works for an NGO. She is a fundraiser, smart and talkative, hailing from middle class family. One morning she called up asking me to accompany her to the house of a very affluent person, a lady who was well known in the city. Mithili had been approaching this woman for a donation. At last, the lady has agreed to meet Mithili in her farmhouse 40 kilometers away from the city. Mithili was a little hesitant to go alone, and so she asked me to accompany her. We reached the palatial house. It was built on a huge 25-acre plot and was surrounded by a beautiful garden. The house was built in the traditional cottage model. There was a strict security and we were asked a number of questions. Only after confirming our appointment over the intercom did the guard let us in. Though it had a rustic look from the outside, the house was gorgeous and modern inside. All the walls were painted in a pastel shades. There was a pond with a fountain sprinkling scented water. It seemed to bring nature into that big hall. The wooden floor and antique objects added to the charm. There was also a terrace garden. The lady of the house was sitting on a swing hung by shining chains. She looked gorgeous in a chiffon sari and platinum ornaments. From a distance, she made a gesture telling us to sit down. Though in her mid-50s, she looked much younger. There was aroma of sandalwood all around. Fresh flowers were kept in vases. Two smart-looking secretaries were next to her. Both Mithili and I felt very uncomfortable because the most important things in life, the smile and the warmth, were missing here. I have always observed that it is not the food, nor the ornaments, nor the house, but a host's genuine warmth that puts guests at ease and opens the gateway to friendship, irrespective of status, age, gender, and language. Mithili talked about her NGO. Of course, everything in superlative terms as befitted her mission. Ultimately, she has to sell her ideas. The lady listened patiently, not showing any reaction. When people don't show any reaction, the person on the other side of the table often becomes tongue-tied. Shrewd people never allow anyone to read their mind. Simple-minded people talk a lot, open their heart, and reveal what they are, which is exactly what Mithili did. The other lady revealed nothing at all. After an unbearable silence, she said, "Give your papers to my secretary. I will go through them and get back to you. Our balloon of enthusiasm was pricked by that answer. After all, she could have said this over the phone. We drove back all the day and having wasted half a day's work. I met Mithali a month later at a school opening ceremony where the same would-be donor was the chief guest. I asked Mithili about the donation. Mithili took me aside and told me in hushed tones, it's very difficult to get money out of her. She is ready to spend any amount of money on herself, but she thinks 10,000 times before giving to charity. You know, after I woo her for a month, she finally agreed to give rupees 10,000 on the condition that we invited her for this function as a chief guest, put her photo in the paper, and give a press release about her. You shouldn't have asked her for such a small amount. Please remember that raising funds for an NGO is very difficult. You don't have the same experience. Every rupee counts. Is it not true that every drop of water makes an ocean? Nobody donates money without expecting something in return. This is the lesson I have learned in fundraising. Since I had no experience in fundraising, I had to accept what Mithali said. Sometime later, I returned to work after having been on leave for a week. I dreaded coming back to my office because of number of letters and emails that would have piled up while I was away. I was busy sorting out letters when my secretary took out a small envelope. There was an expression of surprise on her face. What is so surprising in that envelope? She showed me a small handwritten note. It said, I know that you do not know me. I read about your work in the newspapers. I read your articles as well. When a writer really experiences life, only then can he or she write about it. Language is just a tool, but in no way can good language alone make a readable articles. It is the personal experience along with suitable language that makes an article interesting to read. By reading your experience, I have realized what kind of work you do and how passionately you do it. I was busy, so I handed the note back to my secretary and said impatiently, this is just one of those exaggerated letters of appreciation. Just file it. You don't need to show me such things. Morning time is very precious in the office. Ma'am, did you read it completely? This is something different. I took the note back and continued reading. I am old and cannot travel like you. I have saved some money. I would like to give it to you so that you can use it in your work. You may have much more, but this is my contribution to your work. I will not ask to whom you give it or how you use it. I have confidence in you. A draft for rupees 4 lakh was attached to the note. Now, I was even more surprised than my secretary. In my public life, I have received hundreds of applications asking for money and many letters telling me that the money I have donated is insufficient. But here was a person spontaneously giving me money for my work. There was not a single demand. I held up the draft. It was like a star shining in the dark blue sky. I asked my secretary whether she knew the person who had written the note and donated such a large sum, but she did not. The donor had neither written anything about himself nor given any contact details. From the postmark, we knew that the letter was from Chennai. I bow to this unknown donor from Chennai with great respect. I remembered the poem about Abu Ben Adam and prayed, "May this tribe increase." My mind went back to rich lady whom Mithili had approached. How different the two donors were. Do you like her experience? Then share with your friends and subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching, guys.